Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going.
Oh, we're winging it. Hi, Linda.
We are. Hello. Highs and lows. Where do we start? Yeah. Even though we've done this, many times now? What are we up to? 26 or so?
Like that, yeah.
We still get to that stage where we're like, oh, highs and lows.
Baby's bouncing, yeah. Well, let's see. Mucked high and mucked low. Well, as we're recording this, we just came off of another sticky note time weekend with our community. And oh my goodness, I feel that so hard right now. There's so much melty around it. I'm back a day and a half and I'm still like struggling. So I think this is my high and my low because we got to see a whole bunch of people in person for the first time that we've known in the community virtually only for like 2 years now. Yeah.
I don't.
We're hanging out. We're not going anywhere. Mommy's talking.
No, I don't.
So I feel so fulfilled after this weekend. I have all this community, fellowship, fun, entertainment, being around people, getting work done, learning, everything. And then at the same time, I am so completely drained. There's no switching on and off with like getting that high and then feeling the low. It just goes from one to the other. And I'm just like, we need a break again, even though this was kind of a break because it was a break from one of them and not the other, turned momming off for a weekend and work on. And now I have to switch it with no like in between for myself. But I guess that's what we signed up for. I don't know. Whatever. Entrepreneurship and motherhood, just a blast.
Yeah.
I don't know what about yours.
It's so easy to not be able to just take a breath and get the momentum. And that's part of, I think, my low tonight is I got on this train and couldn't get off. I saw it, I recognize it, I know the pattern, and I got angry, I got annoyed and frustrated and felt like I wanted to throw an adult tantrum as like the inner child thing. Yep. And I know that it's probably off the back of sticky note time weekend and not much sleep and overdoing it today and receiving my book finally in my hands, which is all sorts of amazing. Just cannot describe the amazing part of that. So it's so many things added and rolled up into that. And I thought we were doing so well. I made roast chicken for dinner to celebrate. And yep, it can only take a minute for it to all come undone. So that's my high, getting my book today.
Yay. Oh my gosh, it's such an exciting thing.
I was thinking it wasn't going to come till Wednesday or Thursday. Today's Monday. So that's just amazing. And she just went to sleep in like a minute and 13 seconds.
Record time.
On my chest. I knew she was tired, but not quite that tired. I hit a sweet spot. Indeed.
You'll never be able to get it happen again.
She's a great sleeper, actually.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope it happens all the time now.
Yeah. My eldest was not. Still is not. And how do we flick on and off? So many times.
You asked me before we even started recording, Linda, if I had stopped being mom over this weekend. And hey, yes, it's raining out. And it felt like I did in the moment of each day that I was away, but I wasn't away because I was only 45 minutes away from home. But my parents had Declan, my husband had him, so I had to take care of all the arrangements to get him taken care of while I was away. So I kind of checked out from being mom for the weekend and into being entrepreneur for the weekend as soon as I
Yeah.
did the handoff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was still in the back of my head, always wondering, when is the next phone call coming? Or when is the next text message coming? Or that
Or
emergency.
what's he doing? Did he have a
Yeah.
nap today? What's he eating? Is he using a potty? Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Did I pack enough? Did I do this? And all of that like build up before this handoff of everything I needed to get together, the packing, the getting him ready for everything, mentally just stayed with me and never kind of like just was still there floating around and never really left. So I don't know how one can switch that on and off
Mhm.
completely.
Mhm. Yeah. And is it harder as mothers to do that? You know, we know for a fact that brains are wired differently between Mars and Venus. Like,
Yeah.
right? So we know for a fact that we are biologically the ones that carry the child from the seed to the birth to forever, even when they're not presently physically with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's still such a huge part of our lives. How does that then affect our focus and our concentration, especially in postpartum? Sorry,
oh
so many questions.
God.
So many questions.
Yeah. And the fact that the birthing parent, we'll say, has that connection biophysically. I don't know what the right word is, that, that's intuition about your child and vice versa,
Yep.
how you
Mhm.
vibe off of each other.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, baby. Sticks with you. And like you're saying, even when they're not around, like
Mhm.
I had him at my parents' on Friday and I woke up with the worst feeling ever. And every time I get that weird feeling, it's usually because I'm alone in my home and something's missing. So how do we get like that connection's always going to be with us?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
realizing it's because he's not like within my wherever space.
Mhm.
And so if he's not there, how do I turn off being a mom?
Why are you even trying to?
Right.
Do you
I mean,
have to? Is there benefit to doing that? Is that to improve your focus or concentration, or feel like you're doing more self-care that way? Or is it something that society's told you to do? Because I think a big part of our systems mean there is more separation than I instinctively want to have happen. And there's a lot of what I have struggled with in the homeschooling, like keeping kids out of school aspect and out of daycare and close in an attachment way for the first 17 years. And there's a lot of evidence behind that. There's a lot of science behind that. There's a lot of proof for me that when they are close, they're much better off. And they actually become more independent by being more secure and attached and comforted in that way, instead of creating extra stress of getting out the door in time and going to school and all the force and pressure that comes alongside that as well. And yes, one day they have to get a job, but not at 5, not at 3.
Mommy,
right.
mommy,
I don't know what that conversation.
why?
We want to go outside in the rain with the cat.
I don't think the cat would like the rain, do you?
No.
No.
What's
The cat can't switch the rain on and off.
No.
What's that?
Oh.
Nada.
And
Nada.
how does Maybe
Linda.
default parent play into that.
Linda.
Mhm.
Linda.
Lay down.
Linda,
If I lay
Linda.
down, I think I'll go to sleep.
Linda.
what do you want to ask Linda?
Are your baby?
Yes, that's her baby.
Mhm. She's sleeping now. Look, she's switched off.
Yeah, she did switch off, and you just switched on, didn't you?
Ah.
Love that.
Benefits of being on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Time zones,
Oh,
like morning, night.
Declan, how do you switch on in the morning? What do you do to wake up? An on ramp. You have some chocolate milk, and you watch some shows, and you play with your kitty cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because I want to know. That's what we're talking about. How do you switch on? What's your on ramp?
Made
Yeah.
a
I know. Mine's like getting some cuddles. Right.
Yeah, I love morning cuddles.
lamp.
Oh, you won't
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, what else?
It wasn't
The
quite
on
switched
ramp.
off, apparently.
Yeah. On ramp into our like switching those roles though.
No.
It's like preparing ourselves to have to play more mom versus more entrepreneur or more wife versus anything business. And what can those on ramps look like for us? Like, do they, if we don't have enough of an on ramp, are we then triggered into reacting a certain way before we get to really get ourselves acclimated to be able to prepare for a situation,
Mhm, mhm.
whether it be a good or a bad thing, positive or a negative situation. And then coming off of that, like we can't just, I have a hard time stopping. So that's why I think my drives to or from maybe daycare or babysitter, or even if I step outside the house, gives me a little bit of a like switching
Mm.
motion physically
Yes.
that gets my brain to be like, okay, I'm switching from being completely mom to now introducing work stuff in and being entrepreneur Jill.
Mm.
And then switching back to, okay, entrepreneur Jill is, tucked away in the office, leave it there so I can go be mom again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast today I've been getting stuck into a lot of the Andrew Huberman podcasts. And so he talks about a lot of brain neuroscience and how to function essentially at a level which helps us to gain momentum and achieve goals and learn better for our brain, neuroplasticity. Well, I can't spit out that word. Clearly my brain is having trouble. And so he talks about like a swimming pool, right? And you've got your bottom of the pool, which is the tiled area of the pool, which has your water. If you're filling up a swimming pool, you have like a baseline foundation water that covers the bottom.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about dopamine and how we receive a bottom level dopamine feel, it's things like good sleep, nutrition, exercise, movement, bit of yoga, breathing exercise, not necessarily meditation, just awareness, breath, having a cup of coffee. Not that caffeine's not necessarily, but those sort of practices, being able to slow down with intent and have those baseline. Sometimes I feel like those baseline for me are not even covered.
Right.
Yeah. And so as this swimming pool fills with different activities that we do, which increase our dopamine, like taking stickies off the wall and completing tasks and achieving goals and getting better at something that we might be learning, or getting cuddles in the morning, or getting outside for exercise or something like that, all of these activities that increase our dopamine, it gets to a point where, like a whirlpool, where you're splashing over the sides essentially. And that's when it can actually become dangerous, because we are constantly overflowing our dopamine, that our stress response is essentially activated in a different way. So, how we talked about toxic positivity. So it's being in that high positive, high driven, high goal setting state where we're so overflowing that it's actually really put our system in such a heightened state that we're forgetting to do some of that baseline stuff. It's just splashing around. It was fascinating. It's really, really interesting.
Pretty interesting. Wow. Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense, because I know that without the decent sleep, I exploded in a state that wasn't my ideal. I know without much exercise, I feel really crappy and lethargic and don't sleep well as a result. I know without good food, too much sugar, all of those things. So our baseline dopamine isn't getting, the swimming pool's essentially a little bit empty as mothers. So how do we, let's use the same analogy for a self-care, for example. If we were to the point where we're giving ourselves self-care constantly, would we just be splashing it out the sides and in this state of like, well, I'm on all the time and I can't relax, I can't calm down. Like, does that actually then become
detrimental
a different sort of detriment?
Like if we're doing the neglect, we're not getting that dopamine at all. If we're doing it too much, we're overloading ourselves, and we're not sharing that. So, okay.
He's just going to keep trying to get into the conversation.
Oh man, stop it, please. Stop it. Oh my gosh.
I can see you on the camera just going like, oh my gosh, no, not working. It's okay. It's such an interesting concept though to think about, because dopamine works in lots of different ways. We're not just talking about the ways that it gets filled, but also the ways in which sometimes if we are receiving it easily, our motivation and drive then becomes less. So we do things like procrastinate or self-sabotage or et cetera, et cetera. So I've, in my experience recently, when I haven't been receiving it, that dopamine hit, I do feel a severe lack, and I do feel like I'm switched off and finding it really hard to be switched on, because I've got a bigger goal in mind and not a little one that I'm trying to get to as well. And biologically, when we're talking about our brain impacts and our brain way of approaching different situations, are we actually designed to switch on and off? Can we actually go so quick from one thing to another, to another, to another? I don't know if it's actually even possible to be able to just think that we can flick a switch and not be influenced or impacted by the toddler in the background who's trying to take the microphone right now. And just doesn't seem to have the same cooperation that we might on other episodes.
Oh my gosh. And I was gonna say, well, if our cup is so full, that's when we have to start, pouring into other people's cups. So if we're experiencing that, it might be that we need to really show other people the self-care that we give ourselves sometimes. But now here I am wanting to change that thought right now because of this toddler here. Anyhow.
Should we be expected to just switch that off and pretend that it's not happening right now?
Which is not the whole point of this podcast, right?
Yep, that's the whole point.
All right, Jacqueline, you're done with the microphone. You can sing next.
And I thought we were doing so well. I thought we were doing so well.
Me too. But hey,
We're out of
that's just all part of
practice.
switching on and off, right?
Out of practice.
Right.
I can tell we've had some time off while you were away. Like we can tell, can't you? Sometimes it goes so well, sometimes it does not.
Yeah.
Mm,
This is real life for mom.
mhm. Yeah.
In that sense, maybe we leave it off here, Linda, and we get back together for next time.
We do. Until next week.
We hope you can unstuck your butt.
Good luck. Goodbye. Switching off right now.